Typhoon Pepito, also known as Manyi internationally, continues to strengthen, as we can see here on infrared satellite imagery, and it's continuing to near the east coast of the Philippines. Now, this being the 5th to 6th straight typhoon to impact the Philippines, you might be thinking, okay, we've been through a few. This is just another one here. But remember, they're all the same thing. They're all like, for example, if you're baking, they're all different types of cake. But that's the key thing. They're all different flavors in different types of it. The last few have all impacted further towards the north. This one is going to be impacting further towards the south, closer resembling what we have seen here with Christine with the heavy rainfall, but more so across parts of Samar over towards southeastern Luzon and extending across central Luzon. We're going to be seeing some of the bigger impacts with this storm system. The other thing is it's fairly tight. It's not an expansive storm. You can see just from end to end, only a few hundred kilometers is where the kind of extent of the convection moves out from here. So unless you're in that inner core, you shouldn't be seeing some of the damaging winds, but still a lot of rain in the forecast. Let's talk about this as it did strengthen fairly significantly just over the last few hours. You can see that here on microwave satellite imagery. Just watch as it tightens right up, and there's that inner eye as it continues to edge closer and closer to Samar, where if it doesn't make landfall in Samar, it's going to be too awfully close. This is just too far south. We're almost edging here along 10 degrees north, and once you get down in there, we're talking about possible impacts into places like Leyte over towards Mindanao. Now, will it edge further enough south where we're talking about storm surge in the Tacloban area? I've heard of few people worried about that. I don't think so. They would have to change pretty drastically, but surge is still possible, especially along northern Samar and extending out here towards Virac along the places in east coast of Bicol. You could be seeing some of that surge with the water pushing on shore out ahead of this, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But how about the arrival of tropical storm strength winds? Now, basically, as we head through Saturday about midday morning, more so into eastern areas of Samar, Saturday evening across parts of the Bicol region. And if you're thinking, okay, well, on Saturday, you're like, I thought this storm was supposed to arrive, and you're sitting pretty in Manila. Well, wait, stand by. The winds will eventually get there by Sunday morning, heading into the afternoon as this traverses off towards the west. And I like this graphic showing the onset of tropical storm strength winds versus what Pagasa puts out, because it does say signal force 2 for northern Samar, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets up to a 3, probably a 4, because we do have a typhoon in places like Catanduanes across Albay, really most of the Bicol region, even extending back towards the west in places like Aurora over towards Quezon. You're going to be looking at probably signal force 3 or 4. Now, I didn't mention the surge. Now, this is something I'm a little concerned about, especially in the right side of the storm in some of these bays here, right up in here. You could be looking at 2 to 3 meters as those winds kind of wrap around and push out ahead of this storm system. You see not much of a surge out here into the Tacloban area. That is because the winds, based on our current track, should be pushing offshore here, so it actually will be reducing the water levels if you're out there in Leyte. But if you look out here into the inland sea, yeah, that's where you're gonna have some of these southerly winds kind of push up in. So it's the right front quadrant that you kind of have to be concerned about if we're talking about surge. Wherever that water is continuing to push on shore is where you could be looking at, like I mentioned, 2 to 3 meters high. It's not, the end all of storm surges, but definitely if you're in a low-lying coastal area in that right front quadrant as the storm comes on shore, you could be looking at a bit of surge here. This is the multi-agency consensus. Now, I truly think these are edged a little bit further too far towards the north. Based on what I've been seeing, I think this is going to clip Samar, but if it edges further north, the good news for them, bad news for places like Bicol and over towards central Luzon. Even places like Casigoran are going to be right in the right front quadrant. You see the ensemble models, left here being ECMWF, the right being the GFS. GFS even kind of floats us back towards northeastern Luzon again. I'm leaning more on that southerly track. It is a trend I've seen in my years of experience that storms this far south tend to trend south of what the even multi-model consensus is. So we'll see. Here's a look at the official track from JMA. Basically, this skirting northern Luzon, passing over Catanduanes, the Bicol region, with that landfall likely maybe into Aurora. or northern Quezon, basically due east of the Manila area. Passing right over, my concern, I've been mentioning this for a few days now, is rainfall across the Maca River Basin, the Cagayan River Basin, and even some of that rain falling and heading into the Metro Manila area. That's going to be one of the concerns over central Luzon. Before this gets wrapped up in a nice cold surge, and I say nice because it's good news, cold surge is going to come in and basically weaken any further intensification and future storm systems. So good news there. Taking a closer look here on our Saturday, though, this is about midday per the ECMWF model. Like I mentioned, just be aware. Here's Samar right in here. Be aware if this edges further south, exponentially increases. Now, if the core of the storm stays just offshore, that's where, let's actually go back to this imagery right here. I wanted to show you. So that inner core, that inner little circle right there, that's where those typhoon strength winds are. Just remind you that. So we go back to our model consensus, or our model here with the ECMWF, and you have that inner core right in there, just skirting the north. That leaves the worst of that weather just offshore, with that landfall coming on shore as we go ahead into Sunday afternoon through the evening, basically just towards the north of Manila per this model. I think it could edge further south, but there is still a little bit of a range here. We have to see when it makes kind of this northerly hook and this slight northerly churn. In this type of scenario where it's skirting the coastline, though, and I think this graphic really shows it pretty well, if this edges even 50 kilometers towards the south and west, you see how the rainfall totals change drastically, going from 50 to 100 to 200 to 300 millimeters of total precipitation. It could be a big change up here. So something we just want to watch in the next few hours. We could see if this turns towards the north or if it just skirts the coastline here, which I think it's just going to be skirting the coastline before it does make that landfall here. But anybody basically from northern Samar across southeastern Luzon through, of course, central Luzon, all the way up to probably around the Isabela area. Hopefully Cagayan kind of gets a break from this one. Needs to be ready for the potential for a full-on typhoon. Even Manila, I would say tropical storm strength conditions. In fact, watch our little outlook here showing the winds, and I'm going to rewind it right there. We go, right there. See how the winds kind of wrap around from the west? That could even push during high tide, which I forgot to mention the fact that we're at a full moon right now. You can see it if you look outside here in just a few hours. That actually increases the tides, and the tides are exceptionally high with that full moon. You combine that with the wind blowing on shore, and I think surge, once again, we go back. Because you got to remember, this surge graphic I just showed you, and I should have mentioned this, I apologize here a few moments ago. This surge graphic is 2 to 3 meters above the high tide mark. So you got a full moon, you already got a high tide. That could be additional problematic here throughout the course of our Saturday over towards Sunday. Really just a long weekend for our friends here across the Philippines. Can't stress that enough. So plenty of impacts to be had. I hope these videos are helpful in kind of gauging the threat here for you if you are out here across the Philippines. The good news behind this, I don't see much in the form of additional storms. We'll see. Time will tell. But for the time being, we just actually had a new Patreon member sign up on our Typhoon level yesterday. I forgot to put your name on here. I will get it today. I promise. Because you guys are awesome. And thank you so much. Like I've mentioned before, I will never put this behind a paywall. But it does help that you guys support the channel. Not only by liking and subscribing, which hopefully we can get up to 100,000 subscribers. I just want to get the channel verified. It helps with the algorithm. So please hit that subscribe button. Even if you're not a common person for doing that, you don't do it all the time, please just kind of stop by, hit that subscribe button. It does help me out a lot here. And check out our Patreon link is down below. But here's your forecast for Saturday across northern areas of Visayas, southeastern Luzon. Naturally, it's gonna rain, but at least you got a break for the time being here in the central and northern Luzon as they still continue to dry out as water levels remain high across the Cagayan Valley. I'm meteorologist Robert Speta. Please, as always, stay safe out there. Continue to check back in for more updates here at westernpacificweather.com. But I have to say, shout out to the official sources, specifically Bagasa. They've been doing a fantastic job with this just relentless conveyor belt of typhoon fatigued Storms, one after another. There's your insult of the day, Mother Nature. Take that. Have a good day, guys. Stay safe out there.